Previously, in X-Men, mutants have been massacred. Colossus is paralyzed, Nightcrawler comatose, and Shadowcat is slowly disappearing into nothingness. With the aid of Psylocke, the X-Men were able to fend off Sabretooth's assault on the mansion and find a clue as to the identity of the malevolent mastermind behind the egregious violence. I am Jason Lapidus.
I am Chris Sanagan.
And we are Group of 7 Comics. Welcome to episode 144 of our ongoing Tuesday night live stream read-through of the X-Men comics that became classic, as we read Uncanny X-Men 214 by Chris Claremont, BARRY WINDSOR-SMITH, Bob Wiacek, cover date of February 1987. Chris, how are you?
I'm good, and I'm always a little taken aback when you announce which number episode it is, 144.
Yeah, every week that seems to be your reaction.
I mean, I should know better, because you're right, it's every week. And
yeah, it is.
And yet, still flabbergasted.
I think it's maybe the amazement to you, like you're just amazed that you're actually still putting up with this. I've been doing this for 3 years.
I'm a milestone guy. I like.
Yes, you very much are. That's true.
And so to get to 150 around the corner is something.
And we've also had a few episodes that were not part of the show, so to speak.
Right.
There were some that were live drawing, or there was a couple that were Captain America for fun while you were away. So there probably have been close to 150 live streams, of some kind. But that's fun. I'm loving the fact that we had this kind of mission to explore X-Men comics that became classic, because you and I are one of the cornerstones of our relationship. Like when we met was that our appreciation for those Fox movies and the Hugh Jackman Wolverine stuff. And finding a way to understand it through comics, as you and I are also continuing making comics together, making a team comic together, looking at probably the most influential team comic book on in my lifetime,
right.
That seems to impact a huge swath of people. And tonight's episode will actually focus a little bit on that as we get to the end. Mm-hmm. I have a direction for us to take as we finish reading the story itself. This is a fun one to definitely be exploring, and a really interesting time. Now it's been 11 years of this team, the creative kind of this core X team of Wolverine and Storm. Becoming the two pillars, and there's so much to look back on. And I would love to just sort of pause at some point and do let's look at the character for 10 years. Obviously I don't want to go and compile all the artwork, all the reference art, but to look at Storm's 10 years, look at Logan's 10 years, and see where it's taken the character. And really all the pieces are in place for both of them moving forward. And then of course, people add stuff and stuff that doesn't last. There have been a lot of little pieces added on that are probably vestigial narratives that will not carry on too far beyond their kind of 15 years under Claremont. So I'm interested in all that stuff. But who can pause when there's always a new issue every week?
Well, right. And I do, we chatted about this last issue, and maybe last couple, and you certainly alluded to in your intro, is that, so many of the core other characters, if we take Storm and Wolverine out of it, are facing, removal from the team by a number of potential circumstances. And so it really does feel, and we've got, a few other mutants, a few other team members, circling to create a new dynamic that will then take the team into a new era.
Right. And then, that's from a an internal story point of view. From the external, it's now there are a few different personality types and power sets for Claremont to mess around with and to bump up against the other toys in the sandbox to see what interesting conflicts arise. There are new villains on the playground too, or in the sandbox. Given that we've talked about just the name Mr. Sinister, we don't know anything about Mr. Sinister as being, again, that malevolent mastermind behind the Mutant Massacre for some reason, which we don't really understand at this point. Over in X Factor, not being written by Claremont, but Louise Simonson is taking over now. There are a few issues into the series, and as I think it's Bob Layton who actually wrote the first batch and did some of the early, I think, did layouts. He's getting out of the book, and as Louise starts, she gets to do like one kind of page at the end, like direct a page at the end of a recent issue, and introduces Apocalypse right away in shadow with a design by Walt Simonson.
Really?
So it's drawn. He's drawn in silhouette, basically, or in shadow in a room, and you can see that he looks like Darkseid big and has sort of Kirby-esque metallic gloves and some arm, pieces. So he's being put in by Louise over in X Factor. Sinister is getting put in here by Claremont, but we don't really get anything yet, as I said. So it's like things are moving into sort of the next 5 years or a next big chunk of X characters that play a huge role, especially in the animated series. Like, all those kids that grew up just with the animated series as their foundational thing. Those are the two biggest villains of the whole show. So it's pretty neat to see those pieces, those stones getting laid in the ground.
Totally.
Yeah. I'm gonna just go to the chat here for a minute and look at these comments. Matters to you. Firstly, thanks for putting one in before the show even started. This is at like 2:38 in the afternoon in Toronto time, Eastern Standard Time. Matters to you says, love that cover, very underrated. The definition to Dazzler's abilities are great. Yeah, the special. I mean, just move the slide forward because I think the next image is actually the cover. Nope. Nope. There we go. I'll go back to it in a minute. But just leaving it just as the cover. The definition of her powers or Dazzler's abilities is really cool. And we'll give credit, of course, to penciler Arthur Adams on this cover. Most people can recognize like the Barry Windsor-Smith rendering, like the way he textures and his line. But the pencils are actually from Arthur Adams. And we'll get to all that in a sec. Sorry, we just keep reading through these comments here. Michael says, hello, hope everyone is doing well. And we hope the same for you, Michael. Glad you're here. Massimo, I saw him on the weekend at MCX, the Mississauga Comic Expo, and it was good to see Massimo. I got to talk to you for a couple minutes. He was tabling with his other TikTok Tom friends and John Berg, which is a great corner to get to go to. But just got to talk about the pizza. That was the stale bland pizza. Oh, dude, how the mighty lunch has fallen.
Oh, no.
That's another story for another time. Good to see him on the weekend, and glad you're here with us tonight. This is a great issue that I'm sure is a sweet spot for you. Richard, hey, how you doing, man? He says, hi, Jason. Hi, Chris. Hope you both have an exciting stream tonight. Just finished my lunch break. Heading back to work now. We'll be listening to this episode on the rewind when I return home. That's awesome. Thank you. Allie, happy Tuesday, all you awesome nerds. Absolutely glad everyone can be here. David Cutler. I already get laughing when I just see his name, just because, David, you have laid so many jokes on us over the years, and I appreciate you for that so much. Even if you say something serious, you make me smile. They've never done a sinister minister. Sorry, a sister minister. Marvel's leaving money on the table. Hello, Exy boys and girls. See? Sister minister. Wait. Yeah, okay. I'm getting all mixed up in my head. You're such a funny clown for this. Thank you for messing with me. Ali says that was one of the things Claremont did beautifully, planting seeds that would bloom years later and give you that moment. Yeah, I love that he would create plot threads, and in that documentary that I refer to over and over called Claremont's X-Men, they tease him about it, that he would often, like, that was part of his writing process, was to plant a seed for something and maybe never go back to it, and maybe go back to it. And editors often had to give him a nudge and remind him to, remember that thing you did before? How about we circle back to that? So I love the idea that he does have in his mind big picture, like the idea of Magneto going from heel to doing a hero turn, and a long, long, long arc. I love that he's thinking big, but I also get that they're working on that monthly deadline, and they're just churning out books and living a life in New York City, and not really beholden to their own archives and the database of story that doesn't exist yet on the internet, and the fans that have access to them to tell them they're making a mistake or when they do continuity errors. There's like a little bit of that, obviously, in the letter column, but it's a very different time, and I think that they had a lot of room to be cowboys in the Wild West and just go with it each month,
Yeah.
Very cool. So can we talk about the cover for a couple minutes? Do you mind?
I think we can.
So before I get into that, this is, as I said as I put in the title, the final issue by Barry Windsor-Smith, in that it's his final interior art within this series. Within the Uncanny X-Men, he gets to do 4 stories where he does the pencils and sometimes inks and colors, right? We have these 6 covers. The last cover we haven't seen yet is in 2 issues from now, and it will be the last one we get of him. But of these 6 covers he did, with the one with Wolverine with all the blood, that was Rick Leonardi interiors, which was great, and I enjoyed that one. But these are the 4 that he does all the interiors for. Chris, how many of these do you own? 1? Oh, we got to get you those.
The first one.
Yeah. I didn't have to fork out a lot to get Life Death 2 in the last few years. I don't know about 205. I'm a Wounded Wolf. I'm sure that one's harder to come by these days.
Right.
And I don't think 214 should be too bad to get.
Yeah.
I think you should be able to get that one. But yeah, Life Death 2 was spectacular. Anyway. So with this art, we see the finished product there. Thanks to Comic Art Fans, which is a website where you can buy original art and trade and just view original art that's been uploaded with pretty good res. They had the original inks that are there on the right. Those are Barry Windsor-Smith inks over Arthur Adams pencils. And on the right-hand side, we have Arthur Adams' original process sketch. So you can see it was done with different dimensions. And as we're going to see in this issue, there is a panel of almost this in the story. And I wonder if Adams had a chance to look at, maybe he was living in the area at the time, or maybe they sent him a photocopy of what Barry Windsor-Smith had done so far, looking for inspiration for a cover. But this is almost like a recreation of that panel that Barry Windsor-Smith drew on the inside. So he's now doing like a process or a study that he wants to then do his finished pencils from. So then he expands to bigger paper, probably light boxed his own pencils, and creates the one then on the right with the expanded details to the top. And that's probably the only area where we see significant addition. And of course, Barry Windsor-Smith doesn't bother inking it because he knows the mapping of where the logo is going to go. So he only inks what he needs to ink. And it's so cool to see. To me, I love seeing Arthur Adams pencils under any circumstances, inked or uninked. But the really big giveaways that this is Arthur Adams pencils, even before I knew for sure, were the teeth on Dazzler in the inked version and in the uninked. Those teeth look like they are Arthur Adams teeth. Dazzler's nose, the way it's like upturned, is very much Arthur Adams. The eyes, and Storm's mohawk is probably the biggest reveal that, or tell that it's Art Adams on that design. Barry Windsor-Smith, if we go back, if you don't mind, we look at Storm in his other covers. Her mohawk is tiny. It's much more modest, and there isn't that huge tail. But Art Adams recently got her hair that tail during that annual, maybe? I think they recently cut her hair into that shape. But that's just a very Arthur Adams way of doing her mohawk. So that was always super cool to see. And I had a hunch it was him, but I didn't know what the dynamic was, whether it was a collaborative pencil ink. I really didn't know. So great to find the insights on Comic Art Fans to see that Art Adams has signed both. Of course, there are not Barry Windsor-Smith credits on this anywhere, but he 100% did ink that. I love the difference in how he looks at Art Adams' render on Dazzler's chest, like on her costume, the shading, and he does it completely different on the finished version, which is very cool to see. Massimo adds, I always thought BWS did more. I know he did Weapon X as well, but I'm surprised he didn't do more X-Men. Yeah, I think working under the conditions at Marvel were not always easy for him, considering the pace he works at. And there are more issues, like, he does that issue of Iron Man. If you know the one where Tony is in the Silver Centurion armor and he's like kind of hanging suspended. It's a whole nightmare story. You can find a kayfabe episode on it. But there are other covers and other things he did. But in terms of X-Men, this is it, which is really cool and unfortunate for us because he does such beautiful work. And of course, Weapon X is like 4 or 5 years away. So there's a long time before he gets there. He was trying to do a part 3 for Life Death that I don't know what the politics were, but the story was kiboshed. And he reworked the concept and finished it and published it in a few different forms. And it's called Ad Astra. Or Ad Astra in Africa. Maybe that's the full name of it. And if you read it knowing that it was supposed to be Storm, it is an interesting ending to that narrative. Anyway, do you have any thoughts on the original art stuff, or?
It's pretty. I think one of the great things about our exploration during our time together on the show is that we get to see such amazing work. When we match it up against stuff that maybe isn't our cup of tea either, but when stuff like this comes along, it's stands out.
Yeah, awesome work. All right, should we get into it?
Sure.
And then I do have a couple pages, 3 pages of original art to show maybe after we read it.
Okay.
And that's always cool to see. Whoa, here we go.
All right.
Anything else we need to cover before we get into this? Should we talk about just maybe that our friend of the show, Jason Lowe, has been recently working on the new Dazzler series?
Yeah, that's really cool.
That's super cool.
Currently writing Dazzler. Yeah.
I was lucky enough to have dinner with him on Saturday, and I tried twisting his arm a little bit to get him on, but I know he's working, or he just finished work, like until 9 o'clock at the library, and
gotcha.
Lots going on, and his current house or home setup is not conducive necessarily to cohabitating while being on a live stream. So it was just not the right setup for him tonight.
One of the things I think I enjoy so much about the Dazzler series that is ongoing, that he's writing, is that he's having such a fun time doing it, and it comes across very true when you read. He's writing songs, or at least he's writing lyrics to songs, and he's having a blast with. So now, because I haven't really encountered much Dazzler before, and I'm getting kind of the full Dazzler experience reading his latest comic. When it's hard, it's getting hard now for me to think of Dazzler in different situations, because she's a part-time player in these books, because there's a number of them going, trying to share page space, while in Jason's book, she's all over the place. So anyway, all to say, it's been fun to be introduced to this character and then kind of go back and see the origins.
So this is the part I needed to get into. And
well,
this is all good. And no one's going to yuck on anyone's yum tonight. Don't worry about that.
Well.
At least not over here. And this is Ali says, I feel like Chris might have something to say about that.
Well, this is one of the, okay, so you know how the world, gives you signs sometimes that things are more connected than they should be or are. I don't know. However, intuition, however we want to take a connection. And so, as Ali is alluding to, so the rumor during the Deadpool and Wolverine movies was that Taylor Swift was going to show up as Dazzler. That was like kind of the thing, right? That was one of the rumors. And then this past weekend in Toronto, I did go to the Taylor Swift concert with my family.
And does she have powers?
And I mean, she has the power to play for 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
And have multiple.
Dude, I've done that.
What's that?
I said I've done that.
But not to this. I'm gonna go right on record. I've never seen you perform for 3.5 hours. I'm gonna say it's not to this standard. I'm just gonna throw it out there.
No question, because I actually, when I'm on stage, I play an instrument as well. So
as well, yeah, she played instruments too, and she sang and all these things. But it's kind of neat how then the issue we come back 3 days later is like the Dazzler joins the X-Men issue, which I think is serendipity. I like to believe in serendipity.
Me too.
But I was just gonna say though that I mean, if there was going to be a character, if there was going to be a live action version of a character who, by the way, also like statuesque, like Taylor Swift is not a tiny person by any means. And I mean, it has gravitas. So you know what? Yeah, maybe those are my thoughts, Ali. Maybe we should see Taylor Swift on screen as Dazzler.
I would have loved it. And I don't think it's over, by the way.
I don't think so.
I don't have any insider anything about her in the movie or an upcoming Disney Plus 10-minute feature. I have nothing about anything like that. But I don't think that just because she wasn't in the theatrical cut means that we're not going to see this connection.
Right.
I think there are opportunities down the road in a sequel, in a Disney Plus exclusive thing. It could be that she went down that process with them, and it was just not enough. It wasn't. I don't mean just money. I mean not enough screen time, not enough.
Who knows?
Like, if I'm gonna go do this, let's actually do it. You know. So I don't think the door is closed.
No.
But from Jason, I will, and I don't think I'm breaking any confidentiality or anything like that.
Right.
He got on the Dazzler project. I think that the rumors had started about her possibly being in the upcoming Wolverine and Deadpool and Wolverine movie, and Marvel wanted to position themselves for the best possible result.
Right.
So Marvel Comics has no clue what's happening at Marvel Studios in advance. They don't tell them anything. They have to run their own comic studio the way they do, and Marvel Studios does what they do secretly.
Right.
The creative control had nothing to do with the comics. So I think the comics guys wanted to position themselves for the possibility of there being that synergy. Mm-hmm. So Jason was tasked with writing Dazzler, has the opportunity to write Dazzler, with the possibility of maybe when it gets to July, it's gonna explode.
Right.
And it didn't happen. Everyone went to the theater the first night. Half of us were kind of looking and hoping to see a glimpse, and it didn't pan out that way, and so be it. And it's not over, obviously, but yeah, she will not be in the theatrical cut, and we'll see what happens.
I will say that now we can, connecting Dazzler's light music sound power, however she manipulates that. Quite the light show on Friday night at the Taylor Swift concert. Quite the light show. And so now I'm thinking, very Dazzler-esque.
No, I can
Very
see
Dazzler.
why you'd be thinking
Oh,
all that stuff.
you know, when you're listening to Karma and she's singing the chorus to complete the concert, and she's walking up the catwalk, and there's just lasers going everywhere, fireworks, and I'm going to say this too. When you go to this concert, if you happen to go to this concert, there's only, I think, 2 or 3 shows left in this tour. You walk in and they give you a wristband, and the wristband lights up in sequence to the songs at various points. So you're in what I would lovingly refer to as the Sky Dome still, which is the original name of Rogers Center in Toronto, baseball stadium. And around the dome, there's like 50,000 of these lights go up, and it's all different colors and it's all sequence. And it's like, it might as well be Dazzler. And you know what? It might as well. There you go.
Yeah. I think it would have been a huge distraction in the movie if she had showed up.
Oh, like overshadowed maybe some of
the movie did not need her. Nothing disparaging at all about her in that. I mean, that it was already a spectacle.
Sure.
And like, you don't need a hat on a hat. Like, it needs to be its own thing. Like the next film, you know, or another team up of different characters or whatever.
And to be fair, we don't want any overshadowing of Wesley Snipes. Right?
Thanks, Allie.
You would know, being from Philly, Allie, those memories of Philly and Toronto.
Oh, that's right.
93, Mitch Wild Thing Williams.
Yeah, that was Game 6. There you go.
Game 6. There you go.
Yeah, very special. Very special. Moving on. So let's get back to this and the significance here. All right, bud. So you've got Malice and Dazzler. Right?
Yeah, Malice and Dazzler. Yeah.
Malice, yes.
Malice.
David says, whoops, wrong one. Hold on. David says, the cameos in DP3 were mostly Island of Misfit toys in nature. There was a leftovers feel to it. I don't know if they'd have wanted Taylor Swift Dazzler in that conversation. Yeah. Yes, for sure. We got to get back on the screen. Yes, you're right. It was, I just watched it with my daughter, and we were talking about, because she hasn't seen the Fox movies. And I was explaining to her, just, in the context of, imagine for a minute that they told all these guys that their movies were canceled. And so the characters are all in the void with their movies their universes are over. And the characters are complaining that they never got their hero ending for their stories. It's like a very self-aware kind of thing. And it was a goodbye. It really was like a love letter goodbye to the possibility of those characters and those universes. And not the right place for Dazzler moving forward. Like, she's on the way up still. So you don't want to have her in that. David, I think you're right. It would be tone deaf to put her in there. So I don't think the conversation's over. It just shouldn't be in that conversation. Mm-hmm. Jason says, remember those Blue Jays? Oh, dude.
Sure do.
Yeah. Those are some great Blue Jays. All right. Allie says, I agree with Jason and David here. Gambit and Deadpool and Wolverine were great. Dazzler and Deadpool and Wolverine wouldn't have worked for the same reason Gambit in X2 wouldn't have worked. Fresh character. Yeah. Unless they had done something just at the very ending where, she's part of the timeline, the secret timeline moving forward. But I think it would have just been too much. They didn't need it.
Yeah. No.
It would have, It was already so much spectacle. Are you ready?
Let's do this.
Oh, my son just got home from hockey. I hear him in the house. I can smell him already.
Oof.
For 3 hours at Denver's famed Raven Theater, Lila Cheney's been singing her heart out. Rough, raw, passionate rock and roll. Hot as a midsummer sun and fierce as a blood fight. Pitched through a full voice of love and life and pain and hope that tells the worst of the human condition, while ever reaching for the best. Yes. Before you go forward, like great composition on putting that bass drum behind Lila Cheney's head, because it puts that broken circle, which is always a great graphic design element to draw attention, to that area. I love looking at just guitars and how they're drawn. Being a person who's spent obviously not Taylor Swift hours on stage, but I've been in my fair share of recording studios, rehearsal spaces, and stages over the last, I don't know, 30 years or so. And it's always neat to see like the way that artists draw cables, the way they draw guitars. There are like 5 tuning pegs on the headstock of her guitar when there should be 6, which is totally fine. That could actually just be a Bob Wiacek inking error as opposed to a penciling issue. But I like to see that kind of stuff. And like she's got a guitar pedal down there, and I love all the little details. I feel very much at home in the space that's being created there. So it's kind of fun.
There's a lot going on there with the wiring and the microphone. No, it looks great.
It's one of the best rock stage setups I've seen in a comic book so far, which is always very cool. She's rude, and she's a rebel, and her concerts are a wonder to behold. When she steps on stage, it's with a spring in her step, a wild joy in her eyes. She's magic, giving every person in the audience the certain feeling that she's singing to and for only them. She's backed as well by one of the finest bands in the business, guitarists Ben Laughlin and Conal Duran, plus Gray Havero on drums. I love Gray Havero. And the latest edition, handling keyboards and harmony vocals, Alison Blair. Before I go farther, I meant to say several times about what happened to Dazzler just before this. Okay? So, firstly, Dazzler's series. She had her own solo series. It ran 42 issues, and it just got canceled. Denny O'Neil, famed writer and editor, he put it to bed. Actually, geez, was it him or R.G. Goodwin? Now I'm getting confused. Let's just say it was Denny O'Neil, but maybe I'm wrong. Put the series to bed, and it was just low readership, right? It dropped below the threshold for Marvel at this moment in time.
Okay.
And the character ended her series where she was exposed. There was an incident, and she felt that she had to go into hiding. Okay. So the character was kind of taking a step backward. She dyed her hair black to disappear into anonymity because, like I said, her identity was exposed with her power set. And that coincides nicely with the mutant massacre in that being a mutant is a dangerous thing to be in this place and time.
Right.
So like I said, she's in hiding. Claremont was not the writer in that series, so it isn't like a Betsy Braddock situation. And Nocenti was not the writer in the series. It's not like a long shot situation where they're closing the ranks. They're bringing one of their characters into the fold. Although she is a character that Claremont wrote first, right? Back in Uncanny X-Men, like 128 or 129, around there, before the Dark Phoenix saga sort of starts. She's introduced into X-Men with always the intent of her being a multimedia character. There was always supposed to be a movie, an album, and a comic book series. So it just didn't happen back then. But maybe we're ready in 2024 or 2025. Yeah, so that's where she's at before this happens.
Gotcha.
All right. Cool. And her costume that we know from the action figures in the video game and cartoon, they are already established at the end of her series. That's not a new addition.
Like the one with the bomber jacket?
Let's say yes to that. Yes, the bomber jacket.
The blue leotard with the star?
The blue bodysuit with the star on it.
The star in it, yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's already established. Cool. All right.
Having fun, sweets? Malice? Go away. You don't exist. You're an illusion. Leave me alone. How can I when I'm a part of you? Look around. Listen, they love Lila. Lila?
Let's just go with whatever you want. Do you want Lila? I think
Lila.
Lila has a Y in it.
Lila?
I think it's Lila Cheney, but
Is it? Okay, cool.
it's okay.
What do
We
people
just go
think?
with it.
Throw it in the chat. Lila. They'll love you more. That is, if you give them the chance. If you take the center stage spotlight, the glory that's rightfully yours. I can't. Scared? Oh, poor bunny. Then stay in the shadows where it's safe and no one will ever know or care. Allison Blair ever existed. It isn't fair. All I ever wanted was to sing, to make people happy, to be loved. Is that so wrong? Is that so much to ask?
So the sweat doesn't always. Maybe it shouldn't be rendered in ink. Maybe it should be just rendered in color, because it really does. It's visually distracting to have these marks on her. I think in other comics where characters are like sort of alternative comics, like let's say Black Hole or something by Klaus, like when a character is like an awkward like weirdo, it works better. But here for her, it's distracting to her face, I find. But
yeah, and it's also at this time when we see this as an effect in comics, it's usually like plague or sickness,
yeah.
Which, I mean, maybe we could say that she is. She's got an evil spirit inside of her, but still, yeah.
Also on page 2 there on the left-hand side in the bottom tier, you see how he's making that choice to like have no gutters between those panels. And a lesser cartoonist would mess this up by having shapes that bleed into each other. But it really works perfectly clear going from one panel to another because of the negative space, and then also the color choices really help clarify that. But it's a bold move that I haven't exactly figured out when I would ever want to do that. But Art Adams does it, and Barry Windsor-Smith does it too.
2025 goals for Group of 7.
No,
let's find an opportunity to make it happen.
I don't know. I don't necessarily need to. I'm not sure if it adds anything, but anyway. What?
Jimmy, on a crutch. What's Allie playing at?
That little idiot. She switched to the lead line and kicked in her light powers as DAZZLER. Allison's a mutant, born with the power to take sound and transmute it into light of all types, all intensities, all colors. But these days, mutants aren't popular. And when, because of that, her own career crashed and burned, Allison gratefully accepted Lila's offer of a job. Her voice is purer than Lila's, more innocent and gentle, but no less evocative. While the others in the band look on in amazement and disbelief, the full house crowd cheers Allie as long and loudly as they did Lila. After the final curtain, on her way to the band bus, Allie's so brimful of energy and excitement, she's half dancing, leaving streamers of glowing color in her wake. She's soaring so high, nothing can bring her down. Allison! Got a reason for pulling a stunt? Sorry, got a reason for that stunt you pulled?
It felt right.
Fair enough. Do it again. You're fired. You think those people out there are blind or stupid or what? If one of them connects that light show with DAZZLER, your cover's blown.
I'm touched by your concern. Or could it be that you're more worried about yourself now that I'm starting to emerge from my show? Are you scared of the competition, Lila? Because you know I'm better?
That's madness.
I say sanity. I've been running and hiding for too long, and I'm not doing it anymore. I'm through settling for crumbs and playing second best. Enjoy the top spot, Lila, because in no time at all, I'm taking it away from you.
Barry Windsor-Smith is so good at designing like these little light effects that move as she moves.
That's cool.
And it helps animate her a lot. For anyone who is new to the show or hasn't read the issues before, there have been a few subplots or B or C storylines where there've been a page or two here or there where we've watched Allison sort of descend into the state that she's in now. And that collar she has on, that choker she's wearing, that red thing with that design on the front that looks like a face. Notice maybe if you can go back a page, when we see that blonde reflection of Malice, you see how it's on Malice there too. Yes. So that is the cartoon language to tell us that she's being possessed by Malice.
Right.
So whoever has that on is being possessed. That's just for those who don't already know. Sorry if you do.
And remind me, Lila is also mutant.
And yes.
Is it teleportation? Is that what she does?
Teleportation, like, yeah. And I don't know what other power she has. So her character takes...
Aside from the power to rock.
Right.
Obviously.
So she first appears in New Mutants Annual 1, which I haven't read. And they're on like another world and they meet her. And her character takes prominence after I stop reading comics. So she shows up at the end of the Claremont run in a cosmic Starjammers and,
right.
Lilandra and the Imperium. Like there's a story with that stuff where she'll show up. And she's kind of a Muir Island extraneous character, and Strong Guy is her bodyguard at that point. So a lot of the guys a little younger than me, a lot of the readers younger than me, they have an affection for her from that time period. But I don't have a connection other than what we're going to form during our read through between now and the time that the Claremont X-Men are finished. So I don't know what goes from there, and I'm sure that many a writer has mined this material to, put their own stamp on the character, because she's a blank slate, kind of, at this point. You can make whatever you want out of her. We just know her as a cool rocker.
Cool. The power of rock and roll.
Yeah. Another night. Another place. Professor Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters in suburban New York, some 2,000 miles eastward. The house is silent, the mood somber. Its natural peace and tranquility shattered perhaps forever. With malice toward all. Chris Claremont writer, Barry Windsor-Smith penciler. Bob Wiacek on inks, Glynis Oliver and Tom Orzechowski colors and letters, respectively. And Nocenti is editor. There you go. And Jim Shooter is near the end of his tenure as editor-in-chief.
Okay.
He doesn't know that yet at this time, but dude, he's almost out. This is the home of the X-Men, mutants and heroes, and, more often than not, outcasts from a world turning more hostile and deadly by the day. Folks, remember, the last time we were here, Sabretooth came rampaging through with death in his heart and blood in his claws. Well, Rogue?
Lost cause, Storm. Cerebral's design is way beyond my knowledge and experience. Professor Xavier put this mess together. I figure he's about the only one who can fix it. Till then, boss, our mutant detecting scanner system is only so much esoteric, expensive, high-tech junk.
I suspected as much, but we had to be certain. This is my fault, Storm. I should have detected Sabretooth and dealt with him long before he came close to do such damage.
You're being too hard on yourself, Psylocke. That Sabretooth is the toughest, meanest cuss I ever tangled with. You went one-on-one with him and lived to tell the tale. It counts for a lot.
I made a mistake, Rogue. Next time, then, be more careful.
We drove that turkey away, boss. You can bet he'll be back. Probably the rest of the Marauders to finish us off. We in any shape to tackle him?
No.
Cute. I need some air. I scout the school grounds. Y'all need me? Have Psylocke give me a telepathic holler.
Elizabeth, where are Callisto and Wolverine? I sense their thought traces below us, Aurora, in the danger room. I believe they scheduled themselves for a training session. Barry Windsor-Smith's faces are so Barry Windsor-Smith. He's one
Right.
of those guys that like draws the same face on everybody.
Right.
People call it same face syndrome, and he has particular idiosyncrasies. Sometimes I know Ed Piskor used to refer to his faces as equine, meaning they were like very, very long and narrow, and often the eyes would be too close together. His Storm is distinctive, but is never enough Storm for me. Like I like a lot of other artists' Storm better than his, in terms of the face, that is.
Right. Yeah, very much so, in the sense where, again, having come into this pretty new, now if I saw a Barry Windsor-Smith face, I'd be like, oh, that's a Barry Windsor-Smith face.
For sure.
Right.
For sure. Also putting it out there that all of the best artists who work in comics back then or today seem to have at least two different gears. They have their I've got time gear. I'm doing cover art. I'm doing a print. I'm doing a poster. I'm doing a splash. I'm doing like the best page that everyone wants to see, versus I'm doing the panels between those moments. And, you know, people get economic with their rendering. They get economic with, you know, how much detail they're putting onto things. And we see panels like that where Barry is moving from one to the other with some speed because something else requires the time to make it as powerful as it should be, like the cover, or that, like all that stuff with Cerebro. So some panels get a lesser amount out of him, and some panels get more. And I actually love that about artists, and it's something I'm trying to learn how to do, to have those two different gears. They're both kind of clearly defined, and it is a good challenge for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'll silence us so you can observe them. Storm, this is real combat. They aren't holding back. We have to stop their duel before someone's hurt. Leave them be, Psylocke. There's no danger. How can you say that? I have fought both. I know their capabilities and trust their judgment.
So,
dude, Wolverine's claws are out.
They are out. Do we know what in the comic version what Callisto's power set is?
Great question.
Has it been revealed and we've just kind of skipped over it? I mean, she's always been the Morlock leader. You know, Storm and her have their battle for leadership. But do we know? I mean, I know how it's presented in X-Men 3, X the Last Stand. However, do we know in the comics?
I would have read in the Marvel Universe official handbook what her power set was.
Right.
And I have forgotten it, but it is not displayed. So I'm going to assume, and I'm hoping that someone in the chat supports us in this. This is a great time for you, chat. Step up, people. I'm assuming that she has a heightened speed and strength.
Right.
And, you know, resilience, physical resilience. Right. And not much more than that.
Okay.
Now, in the movie in X3, she can detect the power set, like the level of power from mutants, and she also has super speed.
Yes, right.
And she was played by the actress who also marries Anthony Jr. on The Sopranos.
Okay, then.
That's another thing. So Jason Jose says superhuman strength, agility, senses, reflexes, regenerative healing. Basically fights like hell. Okay. But it's obviously not that super that she's lifting cars.
Right.
But she's, you know, I remember in the did you play D&D tonight, by the way?
I didn't. It's now every 2 weeks.
Okay. So the reason I bring this up is they're in the Marvel role-playing game, Marvel Superheroes from the 80s.
Yeah.
There was a chart that kind of ranked all the, you know, Marvel cast with their strength levels.
Right.
And I remember there would be, you know, like the Captain Americas that can that are greater than or like at the upper echelon of what human capability would be.
Mhm.
And he's, ripping a phone book in half kind of thing.
Right.
And, Peter Parker is like lifting a car over his head.
Yep.
And the Thing and, and characters like Rogue and Colossus are, lifting walls of buildings and, half buildings. And then you get like, okay, now we're talking the Hulk and Silver Surfer and a few other characters that were just in that like, kind of 10th level. Excellent or remarkable strength. Okay. So it's fun when they have like those qualifiers.
Callisto was -5.
Yeah, that bottom panel on the left on page 7 there, like that's what I mean about he's going quick. He's not spending time to make that face look better or those faces. No. He's moving through. But I do love the coloring as Wolverine misses that swing where there's like a trail of pink. It's more of that. Keep going. That's very cool. Yeah, no one draws lean muscly bodies the way Barry Windsor-Smith does. Like not an ounce of fat on his people, on his women's backs. He knows back muscles. His women are so lithe.
Intimately, he knows them intimately.
Yes, he does. It's amazing to see.
Excellent. See, the chat wouldn't let us down. Thank you, chat.
You're the best. So, TH Pass says Marvel Superheroes RPG. I remember that. Callisto is strictly elite street level power only. There you go.
Okay. I understand that. Yeah.
Getting slow in your old age, Cal.
Ha! You getting clumsy. Your bones can't be broken, Wolverine, but flesh can be cut. The body still bleeds. You got fancy adamantium claws, slice through anything, but their reach is only as long as your arm. Mine's longer.
Nice. I love that drawing. That knife coming through, that's so good.
Nice try. Throat shot would do the trick if it hit.
You're tough, Wolvie. Not invulnerable. Nobody's that. Not the Morlocks. And not UXM. Not even the Marauders.
You going hunting, Callisto?
Want to. With all my heart. They slaughtered my people like animals. But I got a debt to the few who survived. I'm their leader. Same as Storm is yours. Their needs, their responsibilities are what matter. Like it or not.
Forgetting the way that I say this loosely, like the grotesqueness of her facial features. I don't mean it in like that she's actually grotesque, but just there's a certain, bizarreness to the way she's drawn.
Mm-hmm.
Can you think of an actor that would like be well suited in terms of like their physicality? You know what I mean? Like, for instance, Zoe Saldana is really like lithe and strong.
Right.
I wonder if there are other actors like in that same kind of body type that might embody a character like this. Anyway, so she does obviously great as Gamora, where she comes across as quite fierce and athletic.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. I'm wondering like who else. Black Spiders says Emily Blunt. There you go.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Welcome to the show, by the way, Black Spiders. I like story time, they say. Me too. Later, upstairs, most of Cerebro is to go into storage, but perhaps some components can be cannibalized for other systems.
Anything's possible. You on edge bets?
A bit wild. Ah! Get away from me! Are you mad, Wolverine? I'm a psycho blaster. My focused telepathic force projection could have disrupted your brain, crippled you, or killed you.
My risk.
For heaven's sake, why?
Sabretooth nailed you, darling. I wanted to see if you could be caught off guard again.
If you'd truly been an enemy, Wolverine, what makes you think you'd still be alive to now pass judgment?
Saber survived.
He was lucky. I don't like playing games with my powers.
Me neither. But the X-Men are riding a real rough road. I don't know your capabilities, skills, and character, I might misjudge them in the scrap, and that could cost us all. Xavier's. Hello, Lila. Trouble with Allison Blair. Down in the old well. I'll tell Aurora. We'll check it out.
There's like another example of him not doing gutters. So it's like, again, the colorist does a good job, but he also sets the colorist up by not having lines that would be misinterpreted as tangents, things that, would read together in some confusing way. Like that drawing where Wolverine's hair is smoking kind of, and he's rubbing the side of his head. Like I'm going to say that, to me, that's perfect Wolverine hair. Just exceptional.
It does look good.
It's not too crazy. It's like a person could possibly have that. It's not that insane Dave Cockrum Widow's Peak. It's like reasonable. I think it's just phenomenal Wolverine. And he likes Wolverine with the pointy claws, not the knives.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
I'm taking a survey. Do you know what you like better?
What amounts?
Like the movies?
Yes.
Or like that?
I don't know. I'll get back to him on that one.
Okay. Dallas. The next evening. Jay Romes. Do you know Jay Romes? Is that like a famous place in Dallas?
He's a comic book artist and Taekwondo instructor based in Whitby, Ontario.
Yeah. I always ask him to be on this
Shout
show.
out to J-Rome.
I always ask him to be on because he's such a fun guy and good X-Men fan and everything. And he's, he teaches Taekwondo at night, so it's never a good time for him. But yeah, he's always a good hang too. A private club catering to chic glitterati, rich, stylish, jaded trendoids on the prowl for thrills with money to burn. Are you a trendoid, Chris? And an insatiable appetite for the best it can buy. What's that?
I've been called many things. Trendoid is at least one of the 5 things I've been called.
I use preparation tea to get rid of my trendoids.
Oh, that's smart.
For them, the wilder the night, the better they like it. This witching hour, they're in 7th heaven. Much like the gorgeous blonde dancing joyously alone, splaying light of all intensities and hues throughout the room with uncaring abandon. And one guy is wearing a very conspicuous cowboy hat.
He's a
very nasty. Whole place is on edge, ready to explode.
Miss Blair's the cause. Her light show is intensifying the crowd's negative emotional state. To almost psychotic extent, the thought patterns are primarily violent. I dare not lower my psi shields.
Pretty ugly, all right. I didn't think Dazzler had it in her.
People change, kid. Why we here, Storm? Allison's an adult. She's tired of hiding out. It's her choice.
Perhaps. But we owe her at least a warning about the Marauders. She is a mutant, and was once associated with the X-Men. In their eyes, that may make her a target. This reminds me of that scene, by the way, when the X-Men in X-Men 97 walk into that club to find Roberto.
Right.
And, they're all kind of, they're not wearing their costumes, are they?
No. But Jubilee's doing like light powers, right? As she dances.
Right.
That's it's actually a really great scene.
Yeah, her choreography was really good too. Like you could tell that the animators put a little love into having her scene play out. So I'm actually ready for a rewatch. I don't know about you.
X-Men 97?
Yeah, I mean, like starting right now. Let's get off the stream
and
let's just live stream a rewatch together. But yeah, I'm in the mood to watch some X-Men cartoons. Have you watched it like a second or third time yet?
No.
Okay.
No. Nope.
Okay. So be it.
So be it. Maybe over the holidays. Well, well, well. Look who's here. I was beginning to fear you'd never show.
That face is so messed up.
It really is.
Like he was working on getting those hips right and like the muscles on the ribs. But yeah, let that face go. I know that if there had been time. So we've talked about what a color hold is. It's when the penciler indicates with another color line that the colorist is supposed to make that shape cut out with just color with no line around it. This is a perfect scene where all of her light should not have black outline. It should all be color hold, but it's a very, very like a more time intense practice, but I think it would be really worth it. What? Light so bright, can't see. Allison, what are you doing? We mean you no harm. We are your friends.
She ain't listening, Storm. She don't care. Wolvie's down. Dazzle blast hit him hard.
It's just light. How's Wolvie down?
Because he's very scared of the light.
No, I'm just teasing. The idea that it's like part, it's laser when she focuses it. Yeah, okay. My bionic eyes are automatically compensating for this attack. I can...
Bats! What hit her? Solid light beam rogue. Concentrated photons. Focused to their ultimate extent. I save you for last, sugar. Because we've an old score to settle. Remember, not so long ago, before you joined the X-Men, when you tried to kill me? I never forgot. Never forgave.
It's back in Dazzler 22, 23, and 24.
Wow. And what I've wanted, more than pretty near anything, is to pay you back in kind. Laser Bolt. Oh, I made a royal mess of my outfit. A couple more shots like that, even though I'm plenty tough, could do the same to me. So I better not give her the chance.
And here's the panel that is the clear visual inspiration for the cover, or do we think it's in reverse? Do you think maybe the cover enabled Barry Windsor-Smith to make this image? I do think this came first, personally. I think about how long he puts into his pages, and I bet you Art Adams got a glimpse of this page and said, okay, let's just use that for the cover.
Right.
It's just the right thing to do. Or an editor said, use this for the cover. I do not know what has come over you, Allison, but you have done enough damage.
Silly Storm. Malice has barely begun.
Allison suddenly collapsed, but I did nothing to her.
Poor kid. My abandoning shit must have taken a lot out of her. There's much more malice in her sweet soul than she gives herself credit for. But I go where I can have the most fun and do the most harm.
So again, for those who follow along with the good, clear storytelling here, that choker, that necklace, that means that now Malice has taken control over Wolverine. And what a great Wolverine face that one is.
Yeah. That's
crazy eyebrows. I love it. Do you want to read Wolverine as Malice?
You could try that, I guess.
Blondie wants a scrap. I'll give her one she'll never forget. X-Men? Where am I? What's happening?
The look in Logan's eyes. So much like what I saw in Allison's.
Scatty, y'all. Wolf has gone berserk. Get in my way, skirts. I'll cut you down. Nothing's gonna stop me. He's serious. He really means to kill me. I'm not that easy, mister.
Yes, take a drink.
Take a drink.
I love that she's doing like eye blasts.
Yeah, it's Cyclops. She's Cyclopsing him up.
And she says Mister to go with it, right?
I wonder if that's like a little wink wink there.
I think that's just for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nor are we. Something strange is occurring here. But until we can safely sort out the truth, I dare not take any chances. So here's another like interesting Barry Windsor-Smithism. I don't know if you can see on the the screen there, on Storm's arm,
Yep.
there is green in
Yeah, I
her
see it.
skin color.
Yep.
And this is something he experimented with when he does his own coloring. This gives, like, he's one of the only artists of this time period to, you know, be a bit of an auteur where he's like, he has story ideas that he's had a chance to execute, even though Claremont scripted. He's done plot, and he's done pencils, inks, and colors. And he's one of the only guys that ever like plays around with certain skin colors to add in things. And we've seen him before adding green into Storm, and I'm wondering if he's giving color notes on this, because that is not usual, but beautiful and effective anyway. Storm! Multiple thought patterns converging on this club. The police!
I think Wolvie's okay, boss. He's just stunned is all. What made him go so crazy? Hey, what's this around his neck?
Rogue! Don't touch him! Get away! At that moment, outside... Thank heaven you came, Captain. What the devil took you so long? It's that mutie, Firefly Dazzler. Recognized her right off.
Then how come you let her in, Luther?
Never mind that. She and her pals are wrecking my place. You gotta do something.
Sergeant, deploy the men. Secure the area. Keep civilians, and especially the press, well back. Muties, super beings. Read about them. Seen reports on TV. But it can't be real. People simply can't do such fantastic things. It ain't natural. They're probably kids higher on their drugs than Luther is on his. Wish I could bust him too. He deals. Since we can't prove anything, it's his customers who always pay.
At that moment, back inside, you aren't Rogue?
Prove it, sweets. And then do something about it. If you can.
First Wolverine, now Rogue. Is Dazzler's madness infectious?
Hi, guys. I'm Rogue. Want a party?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Yes.
Listen, Rogue's attacking the cops.
No, Wolverine, not Rogue. Any more than it was you or Dazzler who struck us. A psychic entity named Malice, also pronounced Malice, affiliated with the Marauders. I sensed this when it possessed Rogue. It's empathetic in nature, keying off the emotional centers of its host's brain. Since most psychic shields are concentrated around the rational mind, Malice's assault effectively bypasses them, rendering them impotent. The creature's actions bespeak its true nature. It evidently thrives on violence. And our only clue as to its victim seems to be the choker that appeared on each of you when you lost control. You are our telepath, Psylocke. Can you deal with Malice? Not while it shares Rogue's consciousness. Her mind is virtually impossible to probe, even when she's cooperating.
This thing made me its slave, its toy.
For me to act effectively, we must shift Malice into a more acceptable vessel.
How about me? I'll risk anything to nail that fiend.
Better, Storm, to use a mind I'm familiar with. Someone who I've shared a rapport. Someone, perhaps, you trust? Malice knows you too well, Dazzler. That makes the risk too great. I shall be the bait.
And if this plan fails, don't worry, darling. Malice won't get away.
Some fun, eh, fellas?
Here again, no gutters, but you need it for if you want to have all these faces.
Yeah.
You know, like there's not a lot of space, but it works really well each time. And having this rogue face is awesome. It looks really well rendered, but now the sweat beads are white. And sure, the ink line is still there, but this is better than having it the same color. So cool.
A real night to remember.
This is Tom Thibodeau, KXXR TV News, reporting live from downtown.
Zoom in close, guys. I want to make sure y'all get a good shot of me.
Where the Dallas Police Department SWAT teams are waging a high-pitched battle.
And don't none of you forget the name ain't Rouge, it's Rogue.
Against a lone, fantastically powerful, self-described mutant terrorist.
I belong to an outfit called the X-Men. Enjoy your last bow, girl, because this show's about to close. Says who, Latingale? Your life expectancy is going to be all of 5 seconds, Dazzler, once I get my hands on you. Easier said, sweetheart, than done.
Beams like lasers. So intense, Rogue, not Rouge, can't block them out. Momentarily overwhelm her senses and totally paralyze her.
Whomever, whatever you are, Malice, you're finished. You'll never get your hooks into me or anyone else again. Psylocke, take her.
Be ready, Storm. I sense a vague shimmer of psychic energy, elusive as quicksilver. Malice is making her move.
Suffer, Headbuster. That's as close to me as you'll ever come. I haven't enjoyed myself so much in ages. I mean, never to leave you chumps. And now, for the pièce de résistance. Can't wait to see what your boss lady tastes like. Even without her elemental powers, Storm's like a force of nature. A goddess, born to rule. True witchling, but the key to what I was and am and shall ever strive to be is knowledge and mastery of self. My strength, my will, my soul. Forever my own. Storm.
Stay back, Allison. This is Storm's battle. If we interfere, we'll do far more harm than good.
You lose, Malice. No!
I win! The shadow side of myself, our darker nature, is what sustains you and gives you power over us. But it is also part of what makes me leader of the X-Men. The more you pushed it to the fore, the better able you made me to resist you. You could not seize or suborn that aspect of my being which I had long ago embraced. You could not tempt me with what I already possess. This guy is like the lamest looking reporter. Later, police continue their search, thus unsuccessful, for the mutant band responsible for tonight's outrage, identified by one of its own members as the X-Men.
He's wrong. If anyone's to blame, it's me. I'm going to turn myself in and somehow clear your name.
And what would that accomplish beyond possibly feeding a star's natural martyr complex? Do you still yearn so desperately for the spotlight, Allison?
That isn't fair, Storm.
What occurred tonight was not your fault. You were possessed by Malice. You are innocent, Dazzler. We simply cannot prove it.
What's this all about? You say Malice is hooked up with this outfit called the Marauders? Why the heck pick on me?
You have considerable power, and you are our friend. You were Malice's means to get to us.
And I did a pretty good job of it, too. In the eyes of the law, Storm, the X-Men have just become wanton criminals. Your reputation's completely discredited.
We shall survive.
But will I?
Not alone, Ellie. I know this is not the life you wanted, but at least among the X-Men, you will have a chance. By yourself, you have none.
After all that's happened, you'd still accept me.
What are friends for? We had best start moving. We have already been here too long. Wolverine? Logan, are you all right? Wolverine! Is that like the best panel in the whole book?
I think it could be, yeah.
What are you doing?
It's Malice. He's possessed again.
The blazes I am, Red. It's her. She's the one.
You're crazy, man. That's Storm. Open your eyes. Use your senses. You're killing one of your own.
But my senses, they told me. Storm, I'm sorry. I was so sure. When I caught your scent, I thought you were Malice.
You misunderstood Wolverine. Storm's own strength of command. You misunderstood Wolverine. Storm's own strength of command for Malice's influence. Right. Trust me, there is no trace of Malice in either of your consciousnesses.
How do we know you're clean, Mind Reader? Who veggies with a team telepath, huh? Maybe some things, Daz, have to be taken on faith. Well, that's asking a lot. If we can't trust ourselves anymore,
Then the time's come to pack things up and go our separate ways. Because in all the ways that really matter, the X-Men are through.
Not yet, Wolverine. Not without a fight.
bold, brave words, Storm. The wolves ring truer. Trust springs from the heart. If that heart's been touched, tainted with malice, all the talk, all the arguments, all the convincing the world won't heal the wound or put things right again. Face facts, Storm. You've lost. I won. Well, and there's that choker.
That guy is Malice.
What?
Next issue is Old Soldiers. I wonder what that means.
I wonder what that could be.
My goodness. My goodness.
Wow.
So, going through the chat for a minute, then we're going to read the X-Mail because there's some fun stuff here. Black Spiders adds, it makes me sad that the X-Men doesn't make good stories anymore. Oh, well, you know, to each their own. I think there are lots of people who prefer the Bronze Age, you know, those 80s Jim Shooter comics to what's happened since. And there are lots of people who are loving X-Men comics today. And I think it's just all a matter of people's taste and what they're exposed to and maybe when they fall in love with it, how old they are and like what era they fall in love with.
Yeah.
But I'm not sad that comics aren't like this because this exists. You know, it's from its moment in time. And this hasn't gone away. There's just more that's different. And that's cool too. Trevor, how you doing, man? As always, you guys, if you're not following 16Shooter on social media, even if you don't generally like toy photography, Trevor, your work has been so dynamic. Every time I see something, whether it's featured on a toy review and they're including your images, or whether I scroll through your profile or see stuff posted in my feed, you blow me away. Just amazing work. And we all should be in awe of your skill set and your results. Trevor says, love BWS, but his women were sometimes a little harsh looking. Yeah, I think his men are harsh looking too. It just might suit the male character in this. Like, you know, his Wolverine is also not a pretty Wolverine. It just seems to suit Wolvie. But yeah, once in a while his face is don't always bring out the prettiest side of the women, the way that artists like Arthur Adams later on especially really make them look like pinup models, and he definitely doesn't. Ali says features are just features. Yeah, if it reads, that's the bottom line. I think when we're reading comics is if it reads, that's the all important thing. As an artist who doesn't draw perfect features ever or any of the time, I'm happy if it ever just reads. I think like Mike Mignola, another artist that you and I both love, Chris, he doesn't draw pretty. His faces aren't pretty, and his characters either.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and that's also subjective, right? So, like,
sure,
I think we're drawn to interesting design, right?
Sure,
that gives you either elements of that either make you, consider different things, or maybe reflect characteristics in a different way through the art of the actual design.
I'm thinking also of like Jeff Lemire,
Yeah, right.
I'm trying to think of a word to talk about, a word to describe that isn't meant to be negative, that talks about a sort of like folk art quality that it's not ugly, not grotesque. Like there's another word I'm just missing right now. It's in my vocabulary somewhere. Just to express like when faces are just a little odd. And I find that it's a really interesting expressive place to express characters from, because if characters are all Instagram face, if they're all pinup models all the time, there isn't enough. Stories can only kind of go in with that particular vibe. But a lot of these stories are askew. Like these characters are outcasts. They sometimes can be really beautiful. That's fine, but they're also in like a strange time and place. And having things look a little odd once in a while is it can be an expressive way to set the tone. And other characters, other ways of drawing people can be really interesting. So I like both. I can tell you though, it does go too far for me with certain. As much as I love Silvestri, like he draws them all too sexy in a particular version of sexy. I'm not saying that I think it, you know what I mean. And Jim Lee as well. Like it goes too far the other direction. Something, and I thought Byrne once in a while gets a little generic with his faces. So yeah, it's a fun thing to play.
And as long as Byrne isn't drawing children, we're okay. we can all agree.
Yeah. I hear you. David says, yeah, lots of good X-Men stories in every era. Agreed. And lots of bad stories for every title, in every medium. There's lots of good, lots of bad. There's always a variety. TH Pass says, that soldier is Freddie Mercury. I'm just going to take offense. I'm just going to pretend to be offended. Not everybody with a mustache is Freddie Mercury. There has to be more that we use to distinguish. I'm just kidding around. It's all good. And you're welcome, Trevor. Dan Alvin says, that soldier looks like Stanley. Okay, again. To people, if all we see is a mustache, Anyway.
Yeah.
Trevor continues, don't get me wrong. I like the interesting looks. Just some panels were inconsistent. 100% yes. I never liked Carmen Infantino as a kid. Now I really appreciate his style. Yeah, there's a lot of that. I was actually thinking today as I was tidying up my studio and putting some comics I had recently acquired in short boxes. I have amassed a really lovely Jack Kirby collection of floppy issues of singles. And when I was reading, like when this issue came out, for instance, 1987, or it actually came out in the end of 86, Kirby was a deterrent for me. Like I did not want to read a comic that he drew. And now I kind of only want to read. I love looking at all of his weird quirks. Like he never drew a beautiful woman in his life.
Right.
All of his women look weird. If you want to see a beautiful woman of that era, it's Ramita Sr. He had the skill for that. But Kirby, it was something else. But I still love every drawing, even though everything is quirky. All of his faces, all of his hands, they're all abstractions. And learning the language of their abstraction is part of the fun of all these old comics. So, yeah, it's good times. Ooh, we're talking about casting Callisto. Tank Girl era Lori Petty would have been a great Callisto. A Trendoid. Yeah, and Joan Jett. Yeah, I mean Joan Jett would have been a good Callisto, and I was thinking about Pat Benatar for Lila
Sure.
Cheney. Of course, like
Of
that's
course,
just
right?
the moment
Because
of
that's
time.
that's where the, I mean, I think probably some of that inspiration for the design comes from.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So I do think, yeah, I agree. So let's. Do you mind indulging in a little bit in this letters column?
No, not at all.
So just to talk about, if I don't know if you can even see there, the first letter comes from France. The second letter comes from France. The
Yep.
third letter comes from Great Britain.
Uh-huh.
The fourth letter comes from Texas, and the fifth from Virginia, and the last from Chicago. So I found that interesting that there was 3 from Europe, coming in.
Sure.
I think there was like a delay on when certain issues got to Europe in terms of their
Right.
printing, because they're talking about the portrayal of Paris from issue 200. So there's like a lag there where usually this would be 3 to 4 months
Yeah,
later.
almost like a year.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there is some harsh stuff. The first one's talking about how beautiful the portrayal of Magneto and Xavier were, as Xavier has his heart attack and kind of dies on the lawn outside of Magneto's trial. If you remember, as they
Right.
surface, they burst out from the underground or from the sewers, kind of thing, and Xavier has his heart attack and kind of dies, figuratively speaking. And that was a nice one. And then the second one is criticizing sort of like the way that the Parisians are portrayed in their protest.
Interesting. Well, I mean, okay.
It's such a, this person is a Parisian and they took particular pride in and was criticizing Claremont's language. And so he comes back. He's like, actually, Camille, that pro-mutant demonstration was directly inspired by those large anti-racist protests that you referred to. There's so much pain and grief and cruelty in the world. Hatred and violence seem to come so easily to the human race that it's a welcome change to see people stand up to those negative tendencies. So he's pulling right from it, right from like real events for some of the reactions from human beings. And I find that really interesting that this seems to be, in terms of mainstream comics, no surprise, like the only one that is sort of connected to that part of culture. It's not just about crime and reactions to crime, but sentiment on the street, like intangibles like racism and bigotry. And I don't know how much this stays in the story, like at the street level. So I'm going to continue on with a specific one here.
Okay.
Okay. Dear Ms. Nascenti, I'm not a mutant, nor a member of any particular persecuted minority. I'm an ordinary human raised with an average education in an average family. Perhaps compared to some, a relatively privileged person. Compared to others, not so much so. What makes my life of note? Why should the things I have done be of interest? Because I was the woman in the Balkans who attempted to hide Gabriel Haller's family from the Nazis when they came to search for Jews. I am the 14-year-old son of the Greek immigrants who attempted to pull Rogue from under the mass of unconscious people with my gloved hand before an angry mob could reach her in San Francisco. I am the diehard fan of DAZZLER who buys a ticket to her concert, though my parents forbid me to go because she has the most beautiful voice I have ever heard. I am an 87-year-old grandfather with a background in electronics who invents a jammer to hide my pregnant neighbor and her nephew from the Sentinels in the 21st century New York. I'm a 30-ish gay bachelor in Atlanta who finds the baby abandoned in a dumpster with green skin and a hair of the color of snow and raises her as if she were my own. I am the 10,000 everyday heroes who do what they do out of a conviction of what's good, and not just when it suits them. I am the one person among who knows how many does right out of a belief in justice and basic human worth. You have included humans in your stories, Mr. Claremont, and some of them have been sympathetic characters, but mostly those who are relatively loved ones of mutants or friends with them. The average human on the street has been portrayed as his or her worst, stupid, superstitious, prejudiced, and easily stirred to violence. There are some of us who do not have to be convinced that mutants are people too, just as there are some of us who are white who worked for the rights of blacks since before the Civil War. Please, Mr. Claremont, remember us when you tell your story. While it is truly heroic to resist oppression when it is leveled against you, it is no less heroic to resist oppression in order to help someone else. We are out there, as we have always been, the grassroots, Gandhis, and Mother Teresas, doing our part as best we can to make a difference, one person at a time. Why do you choose not to see us? Holy smokes. David says, when did X-Men get so political? Can you imagine that, like, any other comic in 1986 from Marvel or DC eliciting such a response?
I don't know.
Like, if we go through the checklist, you know what I mean? They're just, this book, for kind of obvious reasons, has been poking people in a particular emotional place for decades, and that is fascinating. Okay, there's more. Are you up for another one?
Sure.
I just find it fascinating, like what people are, how they are reacting in different ways. Like, we're talking, I'm interested in the art and like Wolverine being cool. Someone else is interested in another aspect and continuity or in another character. But this is it's fascinating. The next one's mostly a fun letter about X-Men comics being tons of fun.
Okay.
And the last one, here we go. Dear Nascenti, Claremont and Company, I've been reading comics for close to 20 years now, and I like to think that I've just about seen it all. Unfortunately, I am wrong a great deal of the time. By the way, I'm going to omit some language here that's inflammatory, just letting you know.
Sure.
Over the past 2 decades, I have read more comics than most people could shake an Uru hammer at. Yet I've never written a letter until now. I'm a gay white male, 24 years old. That has absolutely nothing to do with the price of beans.
Okay.
But it might account for the way that the recent issues of X-Men have completely entranced me. It's quite obvious that the mutant hatred that is becoming so prevalent in the Marvel Universe has existed in our own world in various guises. I know that I've experienced some of it myself. When I saw Professor X beaten to a pulp simply because he was a mutant, well, to say that I identified is extreme understatement. I'm sure that somewhere else in Chicago, a black, an Italian American, an Asian American could have read the same thing and had the same reaction. So he goes on to talk about being called terrible names, for different groups. Then he goes on. The Uncanny X-Men is not only the most human comic I've ever read, but it is also the most humane. The issues you deal with in your stories are important ones. And even though you deal with them, never have I felt as though I was being preached at. It is a fine line Chris Claremont walks, the one on which you can communicate vital messages, yet not become overly didactic and still entertain. As long as you guys are all there, I'll be here. Thank you. Name withheld. Chicago, Illinois. And I'm just really struck by this idea that these silly comics mean so much to certain people. They're really hitting with audience members, and clearly it's not little kids writing in for their favorite superpowers anymore.
Right.
This audience has aged up big time.
Mm-hmm.
Big time. Anyway, I was just wanted to share.
Yeah.
It feels like timely stuff. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's. I imagine the mail column evolved, changed through time, and
Yeah.
so properly X-Men.
Well, there's that tradition at Marvel for this thing called the No Prize, which is when you write in that you found an error in the continuity or in an issue, and then you also provide the loophole by which it is nullified. And so, there's a lightheartedness, but to get this mail where like someone's talking about, feeling underrepresented in the way that the protests are going on, and then these two other letters are just like really, it's a much heavier reaction to X-Men comics than I think I was expecting. I'm still kind of into the let's survive the mutant massacre, like, oh, crossovers, and let's see what's happening next, and the big villain. And this is like someone's having very personal reactions when they're reading these. So I'm struck. Michael says, also, in a time when people had to put the effort into writing and mailing a letter and not just a quick tweet. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Teach Pass says, the one political letter I remember in the 80s close to these was one letter in Daredevil that called the racist card about black characters always getting beat up in Miller and Denny O'Neill's DD like Turk. Yeah, Turk is a crazy trope. David Cutler says, let's read the Penthouse letters next. David, that's a different channel, and that's an OnlyFans. And your subscription lapsed, so you're out, buddy. You got to re-enter a new credit card, okay? And then we'll get back to that. So, that is cool. Original art pages.
Okay.
Neat to see. Just, we read it. It's just kind of fun to see without the color. And, yeah, just gorgeous looking. David says, previously in Triple X. Yes, in XX X-Men. I could look at this kind of stuff all day long. You can see there is some tape on the page on the right. That top tier was probably redone and pasted back on. And I'm not sure what was redone about it. We can't tell. We'll never know. But interesting. Neat to see. Yeah, that Wolverine hair, man. I'm struck.
It looks good.
Yeah. And then there was also this page. I don't know if someone changed the levels on it to get rid of all the yellowing.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it just was included. It's on the internet. And like, that bold choice to have like Wolverine's name in a different font. Or a different, hand type.
Even that top third, the third panel, just like his face looks great.
He's just getting ready to strike. You can see he's just steps away from being the Weapon X artist. He's real close to, even though it's years in the future, he's right there. And he draws Wolverine's flannels better than anybody.
Yeah, that's
inspiration.
True.
That's why I keep a Wolverine and flannels on my shelf back there. Very cool. And then I thought we would just, for a moment, I'd share. This is I captured this from She's Fantastic. It's a female action figure site, and these are the 3 Marvel Legends Dazzlers.
The one on the far left is the one I was talking about, right? Like the jacket. That's the Dazzler in my head.
Okay, that one came on Retro Card a few years back, and then the one on the far right came in the Warlock Build-A-Figure wave.
Okay,
I have both. The one on the right, besides her awesome Farrah Fawcett hair, and she comes with a microphone, and that's like a cherished accessory.
The microphone
and the roller skates are insane, of course. But that's Dazzler in that moment. I have the 2 on the sides. The one in the middle is the newest. It came in a 3-pack with Longshot and Mojo.
Oh, okay.
And she is pinless and double jointed elbows. So it is like it's the best figure in terms of construction and craft. But I'm more than happy with my weird warped legged one on the left as my proxy Dazzler.
Nice.
Yeah, I like that cool hair.
Yeah, it's so do I.
Yeah. Let's see. Dan Alvin says, I've read quite a few overtly and extremely specific political letters in a lot of copper and bronze issues. And continues, what was the circulation for this title back then? Like 300,000 or so range a month? I think it ranged from 250 to 400,000, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it's in that spot. A 300,000 readership would have been something very strong. And X-Men was basically the top of the list for Marvel for quite a while. Ever since, I guess maybe about 1979, maybe 1980, they kind of take that top spot away from the Spideys. And other series that were doing really well, like Conan and Star Wars and such. Dazzler with roller skates. I'm in love, Black Spider says. Disco Dazzler. Yeah. Wasn't Bo Derek originally associated with a possible Dazzler movie? Yes, please. I don't know. I mean, maybe that was like their dream was to get Bo Derek, but maybe she never showed any interest. Yeah. Teach Pass says the Barry Windsor-Smith pencil art is incredible, much better than the colors. No offense to Glynis. Glynis has done a great job on colors for the entire run. Barry just requires more time than I think is available for monthly comics. Yeah. Black Spider says the favorite BWS book is that Iron Man one, the one about the nightmare. I'll have to check it out again, but I do have a copy somewhere, and the cover is awesome. Let's see what's after this. You ready? Ready? There you go.
Woo!
Woohoo. All right. That's good. So that brings us, if there's nothing else to discuss, December 8th, I'll be at Wayside Comics and Cocktails. They're doing a holiday market, I think Saturdays and Sundays for the next 6 weeks or so. So I'm headed in for a day along with Artist of Dead Romans, Nick Marinkovich. And he and I will be there on Sunday, December 8th up in Newmarket, Ontario. That should be nice. He's a very nice guy.
He is.
And his book is awesome. So
it is. If you liked your historical fiction and especially your Roman era stuff, go check out Dead Romans by Nick and our buddy Fred Kennedy too. It's on Image Comics. It is a fun romp.
Yes, it is.
Through Roman era, battle.
Yes. And that brings us to the end of another episode of Previously in X-Men. Thank you to my good buddy, writer of Group of Seven and Peregrines, Chris Sanagan. Thank you, Chris. I'm so glad you could be here. And you sound like you're feeling better, too, which is a good thing.
Yeah. I just needed to go to the Dazzler show at the Sky Dome on Friday. Have the light show wash over me and clear it all out.
Good. You can find more about our comics and upcoming appearances at group7comics.ca. And you can follow us at Group of Seven Comics, on social media. Please click like in the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and tell us your take on X-Men comics in the comments below. It makes a great deal of difference with the algorithm and getting our show out there. We want to one day crack, 50,000 subscribers. But anything makes a difference, so thank you for that. And next week, we're going to be doing issue 215, Old Soldiers.
Okay, there you go. We're up to 361 now.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
Yeah. So actually, I can say thank you or shout out to some new subscribers. Nate Shelton, Cam Strickland, and Ajad19779. Thanks so much for subscribing to the channel.
Yes, thank you.
There you go.
There you go. All right. Yeah. Thank you, Bubs.
Stay X-y, folks.
X-y. That's it. Everyone have a good evening. Mwah. X-Men.